My name is Helen Fiore. I am the Director of Purchasing, and I am the QPA. What does a QPA mean? That means I am a qualified purchasing agent. It means I had to go to school for 2 years to get a certification. It means that I have to constantly keep that certification. And it means that I have to be accountable for all the stuff that you buy. And this is what we do. We make things happen. So I will be using this periodically because purchasing does make things happen. So we're here to do the understanding of cost in purchasing. We're not here to talk about MCP. We're just here to talk about what I have to deal with and what I had to learn. This here is the Bible that I have to follow every day. So when I get all those lovely questions that we want to buy stuff, we want to what, we want to get this service, we want to do that, I have to refer to that book. What is the proper methodology for purchasing what it is that you need? We are here to get those goods and service for you. Contrary to what you believe, everybody thinks, oh no, it's being held up in purchasing. No, it is not. It is not. We are making things happen, but remember now too, there are 60 some odd departments of vying for our attention, our time, and trying to find that. So it's just not you. It's not just you. It's everybody, and we're trying to make it happen and trying to do things proper because I don't want us to be in the paper. I don't want to be on the OSC, which we'll get to's list of like, how did you procure that? I don't want to have to hear the auditor. Well, we see this. That seems to be a discrepancy. How did that happen? So we're going to touch on a few of those things. So I have created this wonderful little thing called Check Before You Wreck. What that means is you obviously are out there. You're meeting vendors, you're talking to vendors, you're talking to your colleagues, you're talking in your groups of your networks of your people. And they've talked about vendors that they're using for their services. What you can do to help along the process is ask that vendor, do you have a New Jersey Business Registration Certificate? That is a requirement. If that cost is going to be $7,950. Keep in mind, too, throughout this, performance plays such a huge factor. So even though you may get a quote for something and it's only $7,950, that's great. Get that BRC, but also know, well, if it happens to be only $5,000, do I still have to get it? We have to look, so if you want to use the ABC company and your quote's only for $5,000, but you used ABC, you used ABC, you used ABC, and I go and look at that performance in MCP and their performance is up to $15,000, you got to get that BRC. So that's an important thing. And a lot of vendors can apply and we can direct them where they need to apply. That's on the state website. And I could just obtain that, it's not difficult. Then the other things that we have are they on any contract type? Are they on a state contract? Are they on a co-op? Are they on a national co-op? So state contracts is the New Jersey state has done their own purchasing. They've gone out, they've vetted it out, they've done the bidding, they've done the whole process for us, which is great. That's one step, less that we have to do, and that tries to get things a lot quicker to you. County co-ops, the same thing. Our 21 counties, they all have co-ops, just about. Some of them do, some of them don't, but we're able to piggyback off of them and use their services as well. So these are the things you should ask your vendor. Are you on a state contract? Are you on a county co-op? Are you on a national co-op? Now, national co-ops are becoming very big, and the state really frowns upon them. They tend to be, and I really only particularly like to use them for large pieces of equipment, backhoes, big, large things that are, close to $1 million that have already been vetted out for particular national co-ops that we belong to. Sometimes there are other co-ops that do have certain software. Again, this is on a case-by-case basis, but I am not a big fan of that, nor is the state, and they really scrutinize that. So I prefer more the state contracts or the county co-ops. Contributions. So you may need to tell your vendor, just to let you know, If your price is over $17,500, they will be required to fill out pay-to-play paperwork. What does that mean? That means has they made any contribution to any of our governing body of $200 to any individual members. That means all of our commissioners, our director. It can be to the party, it could be to the Republican Party in any amount, or the Democratic Party, but to an individual. So it cannot be to our director, Arnone, to our, other commissioners, Licitra, Duraco, Anderson, Kiley. And it has to be for the 12 months and for the duration of the contract. Again, you just maybe mention that to them, just, to know that if your amount or the good or service you're going to get is going to be over that. Public Works contractors registration. If any of the work that you're going to be doing requires a screwdriver, that is considered public works. So 2,000 is our threshold, and that certificate will be required of any vendor. That is a difficult one. Certainly our facilities management deals with that on the regular, and that's always a challenge. So sorry about that, but here again, we're here to help out, and we can guide the vendor through the process of applying for that, but that takes time. Time is always of the essence. We're going to get into the cost guide explained. So our thresholds. Our quotation threshold is $7,950. That means that is the kickoff for when we need to start getting quotes for things. Pay to play is $17,500. Window contract is $17,500 to $53,000, and the bid threshold is $53,000. So what does that all mean? It means it's a lot of work on my end and my people, and it really is exhausting. So we're going to break that down. So if the total cost is less than $7,950, the using department must obtain one quote from a vendor and submit it with the department's requisition. So it helps, again, you getting the quotes. And I'm going to explain this why. It would be like me telling you, hey, Nancy, I really would like you to get me an office chair. Can you go get me an office chair? What color? What size? What ergonomics do you want? And it's the same thing for vehicles. It's the same thing for software. There is no way that any of our people in our purchasing department are going to know exactly the needs and wants of your goods and services that you want, when it comes time. Certainly in fleet, the vehicles, I would have no idea. This is where you guys have to come in and do your due diligence to get these quotes. If the estimated cost is $7,950 to $17,500, the using department must obtain two quotes of in-kind vendors. Again, same principle. You know what your needs and wants are. You know the kind, the description. You're going to be having that conversation with them. And then if the cost estimate is between $17,500 and $53,000, the using department must obtain three quotes from in-kind vendors. And this is considered a window contract, and it's under the pay-to-play law, which requires guidance from me. So not always is something going to be a window contract, and we can, put that through. Depending on what that good or service is, it may need a full, proper bidding process, or a proposal process, or a competitive contracting process, and we'll get into the weeds of that stuff. Again, the purpose is letting the vendor know what things they're going to be needed. I have these beautiful things that I will be able to share. I had them printed up, the check before you wreck, and also this whole nice little cost guideline for everybody. And it is on our website, on the intranet, under purchasing. They're there, but I have these lovely handouts afterwards. I'm going to go stick these back there with you, Shauna.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'd like some questions about this because I know you must have some questions. Any questions about it? All right.
Say you have a project for $50,000, you don't have to go out to bid. I think you said if it's cumulatively, if you go back to that company, they can't go over that threshold. But does that reset in January? So if my project's going on in December, I'm okay because I know we're not to set another one?
That is correct.
Or from when I...
Nope.
Okay.
annually. So the clock will reset come January, absolutely.
Okay, so if I'm December, I'm safe. If it's January, I'm not safe because we don't know.
So, right, but again, if you got a quote and it's November, and you got a quote that's 50,000, and then I go look at the ABC company that you hired, and I'm like, oh, but they've already spent 30,000 this calendar year. It's over, so now we have to bid it.
Gotcha.
So it's always about performance. That plays such a key factor. And again, you're competing against 60 some odd other departments, and now we also have Parks on board, which now is another probably 50 departments. So this also then opens up competition, and that's what we're about, is competition. I know we've dealt with so-and-so, and they've been good to us, and they're good, I can rely on them. But you know what, there are other people too who are trying to get their foot in the door and trying to do business with Monmouth County. And it's their opportunity to have a chance at that. So you really want to try and push out to other new people. And if you say, well, I don't know who's qualified or whatever, you'd be surprised what Google can provide these days. You go on and say, all right, who's ABC's competitor? Google's going to give you like 5 different people that you can go ahead and contact and call and just say, hey, listen, I'm just inquiring. This is what I'm looking for. Do you have something like this? And that can be considered a quote, even though you may still, want to go to Mr. ABC company, but you're getting other quotes. But you also may be pleasantly surprised. You talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, and we have this, and we can offer that at the same price. So it does good to do shopping. Don't we all do shopping? Don't we all go online and shop for better deals? We're, all looking. So it's the same principle here. And remember, we are all good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. So consider this your money. Do you want to get good things, good products? So think about that. Anything with regards to number 3 in the window contract? Does everybody understand that? So it makes sense to you. Don't lie, I know it makes no sense to you. It makes no sense to me either. It doesn't. Again, these are all part of the laws, and I'm trying to simplify that book into this. There are just rules, and again, it's all about aggregation, it's all about competition, it's about accountability, and it is doing our due diligence. The more assistance you can do in getting this stuff to us, it makes it simpler, because we have to still then check and verify all of that, making sure that they're, if it is a public works thing, that they're not on a debarment list, that they're not, held up for any other reasons. So there's a lot, again, accountability with it. The types of procurement. So I know when you guys are getting ready and you're doing your requisitions, you have the choices, which are so many choices. And you're like, I don't know which to choose. And some people just go ahead and they're like, I'm going to just click this one. This looks good. I'm going to click that. Formal bids. Formal bids are the first step. So those are things that are usually $53,000 and over that we're going to go out to bid for. These are the big projects. These are the bridges that we build, any construction, again, anything that's over $53,000 that we're going to be putting a bid together. Not us, the using department will. It is their responsibility. Uses always falls on engineering a lot. Sometimes in fleet, you guys have had to do mini specs for vehicles, certain equipment, facilities management. Always you've got, various different things that you've had to do. Proposals and fair and open process. This is, again, these are only under exceptions. And what types of things are those? Those are usually professional services, like in health and human services, engineering, architects. Those tend to fall into those categories. Competitive contracts are usually inmate healthcare, consultants, software. They are usually under unique services. Non-fair and open processes, those tend to be about proprietary, like ES&S, our elections, those equipment that becomes proprietary, and that falls into that category. Our RIM database, our record management, that is under a non-fair and open process. Now, when I say that, to get to that category, we have had to either gone out as a formal bid or a competitive contract, and now it is an established process that is with us, and we're using that. And now it has become proprietary, so we are granted to be able to do it as a non-fair and open process. State contracts, this really tells you, though, about a timeline, so you can understand how long it takes for things to move. With the formal bid, how we have to do it on the website for 10 days, 10 days for that, competitive contracts, 20 days, non-fair and open processes, so it doesn't even have to be on our website. The state contracts, again, if we end up using them, what is it going to require? Being on a commissioner meeting. The co-ops, again, if they're under the 53,000, they won't have to require a resolution, but also think again, aggregation. If that has, then it will. National co-ops, strict guidelines there too, and those have to be officially in the paper as well. Just want to make sure I'm covering. So, does anybody have any questions about those things?
What did you mean about the aggregation on the co-ops?
I'm sorry, yeah, the co-ops, so, no, the co-ops you don't, yeah, you're fine with that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no aggregation there.
You mentioned before about the 21 counties and the co-ops, but these are the only ones listed in the purchasing.
Those are correct. Not every county, where I was saying not every county has one. We have our own. We don't extend that to other counties. These co-ops do extend to other counties. A lot of people just do them internally, as we do. We offer them to municipalities within our county. And then, where were we? Competitive contracting, again, that is a big one, and that, again, has to be not only authorized in a commissioner's meeting beforehand, but then obviously approved and done through its due diligence there. So now with proposals and competitive contracts, those are not the lowest bid. Where formal bids are the lowest bid, proposals and competitive contracts go through an evaluation process where you have a committee that's approved, and those projects are then evaluated on like managerial cost and other factors. So it isn't a low bid process. We also have our informal section, which is not on here, and those are usually the every day-to-day items that you use, office supplies, the small little incidentals, the tchotchkes sometimes that you get for various different workshops that you're doing. Small items, again, that are going to be under that, I'm going to say under the 17.5, where it's, again, the 7,950 and the 17.5. Those are the things that we call into our informal section. And each one of our buyers that we have certainly are there to assist you with trying to get your items, but again, aggregation comes into play. I know, this is very, wait. I'll wake everybody up again. It's complicated in a sense of trying to understand everybody's needs and wants and to make sure that it fits into a category, that it follows the law. So we have a lot of variables. It's just important, if you have a question about anything, if you're going to buy a good or a service, give us a call. We are happy to help you walk it through. Just tell us what it is. We'll tell you the best measure. It's better to do it before you start clicking that button through all the way to your requisition stage, because now at that point, we're like backpedaling, things are done wrong. We don't want that. So things to know, this is where I was talking about the state comptroller. This is somebody who looks at all the accountability of items. The majority of the times, again, they're talking big numbers. So we're not too concerned with small stuff. But when we go out for the big projects like the bridges and construction of buildings, this is the stuff that needs to be sent to them. And they often put out a newsletter, I'm going to say every other week, highlighting people who abuse things. There was just one, too. I think Desiree, with opioid, the funding that you got, there was some town that had, abused that money, that funding, those grants that were given to them by just holding concerts. So there's, again, accountability. No, yeah, you're not, no, again, I worked too hard to get my certificate. I am not going to do anything. So, again, I'm here to help you get the goods and services that you need, but I want to make sure that it's done right. I want to cross my T and dot my I and make sure that I'm doing it from the beginning to the end, and you definitely have what it is that you've requested. That's my face when I see something come through. That to me means that you have not gone through the encumbrance system. Anytime you need something or money is involved, you need to be doing a requisition. You need to be talking to purchasing. I can't tell you how many confirming orders come through, and this is bad because when the auditor does come through and things get passed along to the state, they're looking at that and saying, why? Well, how did this happen? I'll be like, oh, well, they just thought they could go ahead and do it. They didn't know. They didn't, have an idea. So I get it. Sometimes there are emergencies, and that would be the only time, but there is no reason why you cannot call purchasing. I can have a purchase order cut the same day for you. So facilities management can attest to that. Think Fleet, you can attest to that. We've made things happen. Yes, there you go, yes, and yep, HR, public information, we can make that happen, but I don't know if I don't know. But then I know when all of a sudden, one of my team members will come in and will be like, yeah, they didn't, and I'm like, okay. So then now I'm making the phone call saying how, explain to me. So now you're putting in your reasons as to why this is a confirming order in that requisition. So I see that. And then I'm having a discussion with the department head just to say, hey, just so you know, this is a problem because you can't. There is a law that has to be followed, and fines can occur. So again, be mindful. If it involves you getting something and you need something and it's going to cost money, you need to be calling purchasing, you need to be doing a requisition. So just keep that in mind. That's really it. But so now I really want to keep it open to a lot of questions because I know that there are. There may be things that you don't understand. So I'm here to answer them. And God hates a coward. So let me hear. Somebody's got to. Yes, Felicia.
Something has to be advertised on the internet. Is it 10, 20 business days or work days?
Business days. Yes, business days.
Not weekends.
Yeah, yeah,
Just work days.
right. Mm-hmm. Yes, Anthony.
With the low bidder situation,
Mm.
what are good reasons to not go with the low bidder?
So the low bids are when they are formally put out and advertised, and we've done the full gamut, and they've come in, and there's 5 people. And that low bid person has to either, we're finding a fault in there where they're on a department list, they did not fill out their statement of ownership correctly, their BRC isn't valid. All of those things, all of those checkpoints have to be there. And are they giving everything that you asked for? Have they taken any variances to what you requested? So all those things do get evaluated, and then we obviously have a discussion with you. But if they are the low bid, then we have to go with them. And if they fail, sometimes we have bonds where then it is to protect us, a performance bond. I know, it's
It's like 1,000.
I know, everybody hates to have to go out to bid, and I get it, because when it is a low bid situation, we're not gonna know until we know, and that is the crux of it. Sometimes they turn out great, and sometimes it doesn't, but if that happens, that's when, if your vendor is failing to provide you with what we had asked for or what we procured, you need to notify me. There is also on the intranet, not only those forms, there is a vendor complaint form. You will need to file that form so I could start to build a profile to say that this vendor, we're having issues. We've had to sit down, talk with them. I've come to the table a lot with some of the vendors, Joe, we brought them. Are they? So just don't let the one thing, like we met, okay, now they're being good for the next couple of months, but now they're slipping again. You need to bring that back so we can then say, sorry, you know what, you're done, we're done here. If we can't get them to commit to what was requested and it was in those specifications, then you're done. Yeah. Anything else? Come on. Yes,
Is
Mr.
there a, like vendor jail? This particular vendor has come up lame on a number of attempts. Is there lists that will show a potential low bid or a product delivery from a company that is not meeting an acceptable standard?
Well, again, so I need you to be filling out that vendor complaint form. There are steps in that process. So we do the vendor complaint form. We come to the table, we talk to the vendor. They behave well for the next 2 months, and now they're dropping the ball again. You're calling me up, Helen, they're not doing well again. Okay, we bring them to the table again, we start to do that. The third time, now I'm bringing in county council. And they can be, absolutely, if they are really falling into default of their contract, then that's where we hold them accountable and can say, listen, this behavior, this conduct is not going to, this may prohibit you from future opportunities with the county. But if you're not doing your part, I can't fulfill my part in notifying or having those vendors come to the table and telling them that they're going to lose their contract and any future contracts.
Is there a vertical that exists for a potential low bidder like Anthony was talking about that isn't going to make the grade that you know beforehand, hey, these people were low bid, but based on previous performance, we can see that they had problems, or maybe somebody was not 100% prior.
So that's where we're so lucky. My QPA will only go so far, and then I look to the ESQ, the attorneys, and I will take that stuff and bring it to county council and say, I need you to make that determination. So, yeah, I will do that. Yes?
Can you bar someone for life, or is there like a maximum time?
Again, it is, me having that file and building that file or that complaint file on this vendor, and they can be, at that point when we've done the talks, we've let them know, and so now it's come a new calendar year. I'm going to do my part and reach out to the other counties and say, hey, have you used the ABC company and do you have anything on file? So I can use past performance and also other history from other counties to say, no good, and we can bypass.
Because I checked on one of their past performances on one of the contractors, and it was absolutely horrible, but that just wasn't enough. And I think they even worked for Parks for a little bit, and they said it was horrible. And then when I brought it up, they're like, well, there's nothing on file. So did they pay them? Yeah, they paid them. Okay, well, we have nothing. You have to hire them.
Yeah, that's, so I say, yeah, local public contract law, it kind of keeps, I think it was built to stop bid rigging, favoritism, and, a lot of stuff that probably wasn't compliant. So, but again, the due diligence on your end, the accountability on your end to let us know, to fill out the forms. Yes, it's tedious, but if you want that end result of removing them from future bids, you got to do the work. Otherwise, then, yeah, they can just keep putting it in and putting it in and putting it in every time. I mean, I could sit there and, flag it, but if I don't have enough of a file to say, and then, when I have a file, this way I've got county council too, their support to say, yeah, no, you're not allowed to bid or to propose on things. Ooh, Joe?
So, Fleet struggles a lot with analyzing bids that come back as a percentage of manufacturer's list price.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of vendors were in the land of unicorns and fairy tales, getting discounts that exceed 93% of the MSRP. So, I'll throw it up again in terms of what's like a best practice to analyze these bids.
So, right, I know that we always do this every year, so when new bids come in, we say, okay, how did it work out last year? We always try to reformulate how we're going out, right, because I did see that come in where like they're offering 90% off. And they do that. Some bidders will do that intentionally because then they think, oh, they're going to get the low bid because they're giving the greater discount to us. And that really does have to be evaluated again. Past performance with them, who are they? I can reach out to other counties and say, hey, have you used this company? But again, you need to have that communication with me so I'm aware of what it is that you're looking for. And we start to look at patterns too, where if every year they're doing this, they're going to 90, but then somewhere midstream, they're like, oh yeah, we can no longer, give you that discount. That's too bad. You have to. We were having that one instance with, I can't remember the company where I know, right, there was some at Ford, the dealership, yeah, where he's like, I can't give you that discount. I'm like, well, you did, you bid it, here's a contract, you signed it, it's good. You got to follow, if not, you're in default, and then we're going to come back at you to, gain back what we have to, if we have to go to somebody else. But as far as evaluating those, Joe, it's going to be really looking at and saying, is that, and you have a right to call the vendor, say, right now we're reviewing the bids, and I have a question, you put in really 90%. Is that under what they're supposed to give you, that manufacturer's list, or you can go online and look at it and verify if that is true? And are you going to be able to hold that for the duration of the contract? Because there's none of this tariff stuff. We just recently adopted a resolution where it is Buy American, which is going to be very challenging and interesting. I think it's a good thing. It's a great thing, but you'd be surprised how many things, parts for equipment, the tchotchkes that we buy, they're all from China. So these are all getting evaluated by county council as they come in, and they have to actually fill out a certification form to say that their items are not from China, and if they are, then they list the variances that what particular pieces are. But I'm sorry, Joe, back to your question. Yeah, it's just going to be, right, if this person,
Every year with that, because they provide us with an Excel spreadsheet with 20,000 parts from a car, different manufacturers for those aftermarket parts. And the math works because it's an Excel spreadsheet.
yeah. Again, trying to maybe look at any of the other co-ops that might have them, but I also can reach out to my colleagues at the other counties to say, hey, do you have your parts bid? And see how they did it, and maybe if it's any different, if there's a better way to try and reconfigure the specifications. I don't, it's really going to go back to the beginning and say what makes sense and how are we really going to gauge the pricing. But I can get other specifications from other counties to see if it's better, or maybe they have something a little different in it. Desiree?
Let's talk a little more about an RFP versus a competitive contract and when you would use one versus the other.
So, right, competitive contracts are very specific in what can be used again. The book, I'd have to go to my tab of, and say, okay, does that fit into this category? Does that fit? Yes, that does that. Timing, competitive contracts have the ability to be up to 5 years. We do sometimes the one with 2 1-year renewal options, So, but with proposals, there's professional services, and those are only for 1 year, and those tend to be the architects, consultants, attorneys. Those are all professionals. But then we have other ones in proposals that do allow for 2 years. Duration of contracts are always different too. There's another category in that book about durations of contracts, knowing what is the type of service, what is the type of good, and that will determine how long we're allowed to extend or have that contract for what period of time. Felicia?
There's one meeting in November and one meeting in December. We know that we have a vendor, we know that we're not gonna get a quote for what he does until the end of November. And we are not gonna be in time for the December meeting, which is gonna throw this into January. But we're still gonna have the service, but no contract in place. What's the problem with that?
So then, what is the problem with that? Wait, let me make that happen, that magic, here we go. Timing, again, I can't emphasize that enough, and it is difficult that some items are going to require to be on a commissioner's meeting. Usually there's always 2 a month, and then sometimes they're knocked down to 1, so there's no guarantee, and don't always say, oh good, well look, I'm looking at the calendar and I've got everything mapped out, because they're gonna have, there's no guarantee. So it really is about proper planning, but if, in this instance, what's the vendor's reason for giving it to you so late?
Well, part of this particular vendor, because they don't do all their calculating for all the other counties that are involved until November.
Oh, okay, so that's their piece, so then, all right.
So we don't wind up getting the quote to make the requisition till either sometime in November or later. And by that time, we know we're not gonna make the meeting. We know.
So can you you can do your requisitions in draft, get them prepped and ready. So,
Okay, yeah,
and you've got that ready to go, so once you do get that quote, and you'd be able to make that December meeting, upload it. I'm not sure what process you go when you get the quote. Is there, you're sitting down and evaluating it, but
we've seen the other ones.
is this a,
I'm sorry?
I'm trying to think, the one that you're talking about though, isn't that like a proprietary one? It falls into the, okay. So, again, getting,
They're gonna keep working, we know that.
yeah, and they won't stop, right? They won't stop the work.
We're doing our best to get it in before January, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's just doesn't.
And that's it, time again. I mean, we can go so into the weeds of this, and I could talk endlessly and bore you all to death with the stuff that I have to do with, but time is so critical. When you really need things, you have to think in your mind, bigger projects. I'm not talking about your everyday nuances that you need, but the bigger scale projects or things that are going to take time. Time not only to get the quotes from the individuals, time for us to go ahead and process that in our side. Because again, when you think of you're doing your requisition, you now send it goes to your supervisor. Whenever they click off on it, from their point then, it may need to go to another supervisor, and then it gets clicked, then it goes to Nancy over here, and then it sits in her queue. And poor Nancy's all alone, she's one person, and then it could sit, so it's timing there. Once it's in finance, now it comes to us, and now it gets dealt with, and we look at it, and we say, is it correct? Did you choose the right methodology? Is this something we look at performance to make sure that they're not, over the threshold? Does this have to go out to bid? So then that gets vetted out. And again, it's you up against 60 other departments too. It's not just you. It's not all about you. I know you feel that way, and we want you to feel that way. However, it's not reality. So, yes.
Is there a way for us to check performance without having to bother you guys with that?
You should be able to. I'm not sure what permissions you have, but in MCP, if you go to the side where it has vendors and you just type in the vendor's name, it should come up. There should be some tabs, the performance, you're able to see it, right? So it is in there. I could do some screenshots and send that to you so you could see actually where you can get that. So you can look and see their performance. Again, it's deep, but we're here. I just pick up the phone, call. It's that easy. It makes it so much easier for you to just say, here's the scenario. What can we do? I'm looking to get this. I want to do this. Then we'll be able to tell you, do this, this, this. And I'm not saying it's going to be that smooth sailing, but it just maybe. Maybe. That's the goal, is to try and get you what you need in a timely fashion. But just always think, too, that, well, I sent in the requisition last week. Why don't I? Yeah, no. You got to, again, you're up against 60 some odd other departments. And I always enjoy the end of the year. My poor team is at this point, because, the administrator will send out that memo to everybody that the cutoff and discretionary, and everybody wants to burn the rest of their money. So now all of a sudden the floodgates open and people are sending in requisitions, and our queue just blows up. So again, just be cognitive of timing of the things that you need and what it takes, but also that we're here. If you have a problem with vendors, I need to know about that. Forms need to be filled out, so then we can slowly build a portfolio on them to say, no good for any future opportunities. Again, take advantage of co-ops. That check before you wreck slip is a great thing to have next to your phone. So when you do start talking to vendors, you can quickly go down this list and they may say, hey, yeah, I'm on a co-op. The co-ops and state contracts make things a lot easier to go directly to them. The vetting's already been done, so we don't have to do the bids or putting out proposals or competitive contracts. It's already been done for us, so we're able to try and go, to them directly. Sometimes the state will have within their method of operation that we have to do little mini bids, which then it's our responsibility to do that piece of it. But yes, the joys of purchasing. It is good. Nancy, you want to share anything on your end when you get stuff? I know, so just so you understand too, another piece that on Nancy's side is she identifies things that if it's software, she then clicks it and sends it off to IT for approval. So that's another step. It has to go to that. She's scrutinizing and looking at that as a fourth set of eyes. Things now that have graphics on them, they are being automatically sent to public information.
That goes to Tricia before it comes to me.
Okay, it does, that's right, okay. So, right, there's those little things in the requisition, you know, that you should know, is this going to have any graphics on it? You should be writing yes or no, click that button, because then that will automatically go to Public Information's office for them to review and to know. You will just identify the software, if there's any IT things, yeah. Then there's prevailing wage. Again, that's if this job is going to require a screwdriver, I need to just think at that level. If it's going to require a screwdriver, most likely it's going to require prevailing wage.
When a rec is created, then they have to go to Jeff for
Mm-hmm.
He's telling me sometimes he gets a notification on some of them and others he doesn't. To let them know they were done. Well, I'm just, why is it that with some of them he gets alerted to?
So it would probably be whatever permissions, maybe a dollar amount.
Okay.
There are rules that are set sometimes in the MCP that will say if it's over this dollar amount, it will require a second approver. That would probably be the only trigger that I would imagine that would do that.
It usually is.
That happens in, we've got that with Fleet too, sometime. I'll double check that way. This isn't.
Helena, if I go through a competitive contracting process.
Yeah.
And I write my recommendation report to you, and then I know you have to write another report, is that report public? Or can I see it, the one that you put together, is it called a QPA or?
The QPA report, so my report then. Yeah, usually those are OBRAD. I mean, they're available to us, but if somebody is asking for that documentation, those things are, I think the only thing that's on the commissioner's agenda thing is just the resolution. Sometimes there is the QPA report attached to it, and you would see that on the website if you go to the commissioner's agendas, and then right in the resolution, sometimes they'll have the attachments of those documents on there. But if you're looking for them personally, or you want to send them out to somebody?
I may have to send them to another agency, but we can have a private discussion.
Yeah, so obviously when it comes time for scoring, scoring is not public. Any of the scoring that is not available to the public at all. And then also knowing who the committee was that evaluated the proposals or the competitive contracts or even the bids, that's not public information either. That's prohibited by law.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I want to buy pipe, instead of asking them if they were a co-op vendor, is there a way to get a list of pipe vendors from the county to see who has a co-op? And then I would just call those 3 vendors?
So the way in MCP, when you choose a vendor, you can choose it by a commodity. I'm not sure if you're familiar yet with MCP. There are available.
I don't have access to MCP, but we do have a person that does it.
Okay, yeah, so it would be checking to see commodities and that type of thing. Usually it's HVAC, plumbing, that type of stuff that you'd be able to find that. But knowing then any of the co-ops, usually there are the websites, the links that, I can, trying to think, that's what I'm going to do. On our intranet, I'm going to list all of the co-ops and links to them. So you actually will be able to click on Passaic, click on Union, click on Somerset, and you'll be able to see all the co-ops that are available. Thanks for the tip. I'm going to write that down. That was a good one, yeah. I'm going to put that on our website. So this way you could see what other counties have. I think Somerset's a pretty heavy one that offers a lot of great co-ops, and that I've seen guardrails, I've seen signs, I've seen a lot of stuff. State contracts will have those too, but right, it's going to be, you doing a little bit of the research, or again, talking to the vendor and just asking them, hey, are you on a co-op?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
When you were talking about the different thresholds,
Mm.
so say you use one vendor for one project, one purchase order, then you use that vendor throughout the year for other things.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the threshold in aggregate? For
Yes, it is an aggregate, right, exactly.
How might somebody in one department know that the other, a different department?
They're not, unless, again, they checked the performance, if they go into MCP themselves, and they're not going to know until it hits our desk.
Okay.
And then that's where our buyers will notify them and say, hey, listen, they're over the threshold. So, right, come January, you're using, Mr. Smith's, whatever binding service, and you start, somebody, the library did it, and they did a requisition for $5,000, and then in May, somebody else, and now we're up to, as we keep building, so that aggregation does. But we would identify it as soon as it comes to us, and let the people know that, A, we're going to need a BRC, V, they're going to have to fill out pay-to-play forms now, so we're on that. Yes?
Is that kind of alert exist in MCP, or is there a request to implement it?
For performance?
Yeah, like the aggregate, just to make sure that once you hit a certain threshold, you have to submit a different type of request.
No, there is not. The only alerts that we do send out are people who have annual contracts. You will get those alerts. It's so funny. So I've been with the county, I'm in my 39th year. Started 28 years at the park system, and then came over here in 2016. And my predecessor, Denise, we had come up with an idea in MCP to send out alerts to everybody saying, hey, your contract's coming up, that these are newest, that you want to start working on them, start getting them going. And it worked brilliantly, like the first couple of years. Now you know what happens? Delete. People just delete. They just say, like, Swain, just forget, they're not even interested in it anymore. They're just like, 'cause it's become white noise to them. So then we're doing the phone calls, or people are probably getting emails from Teresa Aziz, who's in my office. She hands a lot of the proposals to competitor, like, hey, looking for my stuff. Where you got it? You want that? But yeah, as far as the alerts for performance, no, that'll be on us. We'll notify you. But that really isn't.
Nothing on the interface, like even without email, like when they log into the site and they're entering data.
It would be, yeah. I mean, a possibility. It could be a pop-up type of thing that would be, hey, FYI, this vendor now is at this, so these things are going to be required. But usually, if you end up looking into on MCP, do you go in MCP at all? No, I guess not. So yeah, I'll go into the weeds, but there is a thing in there you can look, and you actually could see the history from, I think we started MC back in 1999. So there's a historical, which is really brilliant, that you really can see all the performance that we've had with each vendor over the years. So, all right, let's take a moment and just go. Purchasing is so amazing. I do want to thank you so much for coming here. I really didn't expect such an awesome turnout. I know there are probably so many questions. Again, I am available. My team is available. Don't hesitate. There is no question. There's no stupid questions. We want to get you your stuff. Let's do it right from the beginning, so we're not, waiting to the 11th hour, 59th minute, because that stuff drives me nuts, when we really could have grabbed that right from the beginning and dealt with it. So please don't hesitate. It's not calling Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Purchasing. It's us. So we can, So we can make it happen for you. I know. So thank you. It's 11:48. I want you guys to go stretch your legs, or we just had that. But again, don't hesitate to call. Thank you again for coming. Thanks.